The exposure was perfect, the histogram balanced right in the center, and the light was that golden, syrupy quality you only get 20 minutes before sunset on the California coast. I was hovering my Inspire 3 drone at an altitude of 150 feet, capturing a cinematic orbiting shot of a $25 million cliffside estate in Malibu. The client, a high-end brokerage, wanted lifestyle shots, the infinity pool merging with the Pacific, the seamless glass balconies, the feeling of untouchable luxury. I was watching the live feed on my high-brightness monitor, my thumbs making micro-adjustments on the controller sticks to keep the movement fluid and buttery smooth. It was just another Tuesday, another gig, another 5-figure invoice for a day's work. Then, I saw the glitch in my perfect frame. As I banked the drone around the west wing of the property to catch the sun flare off the master bedroom windows, the wide-angle lens caught the edge of the neighboring building. It was the Pelican Cove Hotel, a boutique resort known for its discretion and 4-figure nightly rates. My flight path wasn't supposed to cover it, but the wind had gusted slightly, pushing the drone a few yards off course. On the screen, in crisp 8K resolution, I saw a couple on the balcony of the corner suite. They weren't just standing there. They were entangled, a frantic, passionate embrace against the railing, confident in their privacy, believing the drop to the ocean below protected them from prying eyes. I almost corrected the flight path immediately to crop them out. Post-production is a pain when you have to blur faces, but my thumb froze on the joystick. The woman's hair. It was a specific shade of auburn, catching the dying light in a way I had photographed 1,000 times. And the man, he was wearing a vintage navy linen shirt. I knew that shirt. I had bought it for my brother, Marcus, for his 35th birthday 3 months ago. I didn't panic. I didn't crash the drone. I didn't scream. My heart rate didn't even spike, which is a testament to either my professional discipline or the utter numbness that flooded my system. Instead, I did what I do best. I stopped the drone's orbit. I switched the camera into inspection mode, engaging the 75mm telephoto lens. I stabilized the gimbal. And I hit record. My name is Elias Thorne. I am 41 years old, and I am the premier architectural photographer in Southern California. My job is to make reality look better than it is. I control angles, I manipulate light, and I edit out the cracks in the foundation until a house looks like a dream. But that Tuesday afternoon, looking at my wife, Elena, and my brother, Marcus, destroying my life in 8K ProRes RAW, I realized I was done editing out the flaws. It was time to show the raw footage. Resolution is just truth with a higher pixel count. That's a line I use in my workshops. I whispered it to myself as I landed the drone, packed my gear into the Pelican cases, and drove home in silence. The drive back to our minimalist glass house in the Hollywood Hills was a blur of traffic and calculation. I didn't go home to confront Elena. I went straight to my studio, a soundproof detached unit in the backyard. I offloaded the footage. I pulled it up on my calibrated reference monitor, a 32-inch screen that shows every pore, every shadow, every lie. I watched it. I color graded it. I zoomed in until I could see the wedding ring on Elena's hand, the 3-carat oval diamond I had worked 2 years to afford, digging into my brother's shoulder. The betrayal was total. Elena, my wife of 7 years, the woman who claimed she needed space and time to find herself lately, which I had respectfully given her. And Marcus, my younger brother, the failed actor turned entrepreneur, whom I had bailed out of debt more times than I could count. The dynamic was suddenly crystal clear. I was the wallet, Marcus was the excitement. I was the safety net, Elena was the prize he felt entitled to because he had always resented my success. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark of my studio, the glow of the timeline illuminating my face, and I formulated a plan. A standard divorce would be messy. They would lie. They would gaslight me. Elena would claim I was negligent, Marcus would play the victim. No. In my line of work, presentation is everything. If you want to sell a narrative, you need a premiere. The opportunity presented itself 3 days later, over a dinner of grilled salmon that tasted like ash in my mouth. Elena poured herself a glass of Sancerre and looked at me with those wide, innocent eyes that I now saw were just practiced apertures. "Elias," she said, touching my hand. "I've been thinking. With our 10th anniversary coming up in 6 months. I feel like we've drifted. I want to reconnect. I want to do a vow renewal. Something big. A real celebration of us." I looked at her. I looked at the way the light hit her face, thinking about how I would light this scene if it were a movie. Fill light on the left, hard rim light to separate her from the background. "A vow renewal," I repeated, my voice steady, flat, professional. "Yes," she said, her excitement growing. "A party. The Pelican Cove Hotel has that amazing ballroom overlooking the ocean. We can invite everyone. My family, your family. Marcus can be the best man again. It would mean so much to me to show the world how strong we are. The Pelican Cove. The scene of the crime." The irony was so rich it almost made me laugh. She wanted to return to the scene of her infidelity to celebrate our loyalty. It was pathological. It was perfect. "That sounds expensive," I said, baiting the hook. "Oh, don't be like that," she pouted. "You just landed the Malibu listing. We can afford it. I want it to be perfect. I want a videographer, a band. I want a montage. You know, like those celebrity weddings. A video of our life together." I took a sip of water. "I'll handle the video," I said. "I'll handle the whole production. If we're doing this, we're doing it with my production value. I'll make it a cinematic masterpiece." She beamed. "I knew you'd understand." I understood perfectly. Resolution is just truth with a higher pixel count. And I was going to give her the highest resolution she had ever seen. The next 6 months were an exercise in sociopathic compartmentalization. I played the role of the dutiful, re-engaged husband. I went to the venue tastings. I nodded when she picked out the floral arrangements, white lilies, symbolizing purity, which was a nice touch. I paid the deposits. I even had lunch with Marcus, listening to him pitch me a new, investment opportunity, in a crypto mining startup while he smiled at me with the same mouth that had kissed my wife. "You look tired, bro," Marcus said one afternoon, clapping me on the shoulder. "You work too hard. You need to relax. Elena says you're always in the studio." "Just working on a big project," I said, cutting my steak. "Something that's going to define my career." "That's great," he grinned. "Hey, about that loan for the startup. Ask me after the renewal," I said. "I'll have a surprise for you then." I wasn't just planning a party, I was building a case. I hired a forensic accountant, disguised as a financial advisor for our estate planning, to trace the money. It turned out Marcus's lifestyle wasn't just funded by my loans, it was funded by Elena. She had been siphoning money from our joint savings account, labeled as home renovations, to pay for his apartment, his car lease, and those day-use suites at the Pelican Cove. I found the credit card statements. I found the transfers. I documented everything. Every receipt, every text message I recovered from her cloud backup, her password was our anniversary, naturally, every lie. But the centerpiece remained the video. I spent hundreds of hours in my studio. To Elena, I was digitizing old family photos. In reality, I was editing a horror movie disguised as a romance. I used DaVinci Resolve for the color grading, ensuring the skin tones were perfect, the contrast rich. I scoured our hard drives for every clip of us from the last 10 years. The vacations in Cabo, the Christmas mornings, the day we bought the house. I structured the timeline to build an emotional crescendo. I picked the music carefully, turning page by Sleeping at Last, a track that screams tearjerker. The timeline on my screen was a work of art. The first 4 minutes were pure nostalgia. It was designed to make the audience cry, to make them believe in the fairy tale. It was the setup. The bait. And then, the transition. I spent 3 weeks getting the audio mix right for the transition. I wanted the music to cut out, not fade, but cut. A hard stop. A breath of silence. And then, the ambient sound of wind and crashing waves that the drone's onboard microphone had captured. I worked on the money shot, as I called it, with the obsession of a madman. I stabilized the footage further. I used AI upscaling to enhance their faces. I cropped it to a 2.39:1 anamorphic aspect ratio to give it that true cinema feel. I wanted everyone in that room to see the sweat on Marcus's forehead. I wanted them to see the way Elena's eyes closed. 2 weeks before the event, I visited the venue. The Pelican Cove Ballroom was magnificent, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a massive 4K LED wall behind the stage that they used for corporate presentations. "Is the screen resolution sufficient for your file, Mr. Thorne?" the AV technician asked me. "It needs to handle 8K downsample to 4K without compression artifacts," I said, handing him a specialized SSD drive. "This drive is encrypted. It only unlocks with my fingerprint. We run it directly from my laptop at the control booth. No one sees it before the premiere. It's a surprise for the bride." "Understood," the tech said. "We'll hook you into the main system. Audio is 7.1 surround?" "Yes," I said. "I want the sound of the ocean to fill the room." The day of the renewal was a perfect Southern California Saturday. The sky was an impossible blue. The guests arrived in black tie attire, 200 of our closest friends, family, business associates, and local socialites. Elena looked stunning in a custom Vera Wang gown, radiating the confidence of a woman who believes she has successfully eaten her cake and is now being served a second slice. Marcus was in a tuxedo, standing beside me at the altar, adjusting his cufflinks, playing the role of the supportive brother. "You nervous?" Marcus whispered as the ceremony was about to start. "Not at all," I said, adjusting my lapel mic. "I'm just ready for the truth to come out." He chuckled, thinking I was being metaphorical. "That's deep, man. You're an artist." The ceremony was nauseating. Elena recited vows she had written, talking about weathering storms and finding our way back to each other. I recited mine, which I had kept intentionally vague, focusing on clarity and seeing the future. The guests wiped away tears. My mother squeezed my hand. Elena's parents beamed with pride. Then came the reception. The champagne flowed. The speeches were made. Marcus gave a toast, rambling about how I was his hero, and how Elena was the sister he never had. The irony was so thick I could taste it. At 9 p.m., the lights dimmed. The room went silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, his voice booming. "Elias has prepared a special surprise for his beautiful bride. A tribute to 10 years of love. Please turn your attention to the main screen." I didn't stand with Elena on the dance floor. I walked to the back of the room, into the AV booth. I nodded to the technician. "I'm driving," I said. I plugged in my laptop. I scanned my fingerprint. The file loaded. I hit the spacebar. The video began. Soft piano music filled the room. Images of a young Elena and me laughed on the massive screen. Our first date. The proposal. The first wedding. The crowd ah-ed in unison. I watched Elena from the back. She was clutching her chest, tears streaming down her face, basking in the attention. Marcus was standing near the bar, looking smug. The video moved through the years. The successes. The travels. It was a testament to the life I had built for us. It was beautiful. It was convincing. I let it run for exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Then, the music cut. The screen went black for 3 seconds. The room murmured, confused. Was it a technical glitch? Then, the audio faded in. The sound of wind. The low, rhythmic crash of waves against rocks. The image faded up. It wasn't a photo. It was the drone footage. High angle. Establishing shot of the coastline. The movement was smooth, professional, cinematic. What is this? I heard someone whisper. The drone camera began to orbit. The Pelican Cove Hotel came into view. The very building we were standing in. The crowd shifted, recognizing the location. "Oh, look, it's the hotel," someone said, thinking it was a romantic establishing shot. On screen, the drone banked. The camera zoomed. The lens compression brought the background forward. And there they were. The resolution was merciless. On a 40-foot screen, there was no hiding. The 8K footage was crystal clear. The navy shirt. The auburn hair. The frantic, desperate grasping. The silence in the room was absolute. It was a vacuum, sucking the air out of 200 pairs of lungs simultaneously. Then, the camera zoomed in further. I had timed this in the edit to slow motion, 50% speed. You could see Marcus's face as he turned his head. You could see Elena's profile, her eyes closed, her mouth open. The audio wasn't just wind anymore. I had layered in the timestamp from the drone's metadata, narrated by a computerized voice, cold and detached, Tuesday, October 14, 5:42 p.m. In the ballroom, a glass shattered. I looked at the dance floor. Elena was frozen, staring up at the screen, her face a mask of horror that no amount of makeup could cover. She looked like a ghost. Marcus had dropped his drink. He was backing away from the bar, his hands raised as if to ward off a physical blow. But the video wasn't done. I cut from the drone footage to the screenshots of the bank transfers I had prepared. Simple white text on a black background. Transfer to Elias Thorne, $5,000. Subject, rent. Transfer to Elias Thorne, $3,200. Subject, car payment. Pelican Cove Hotel charge, $850. Date, October 14th. Then, one final image. A split screen. On the left, Elena's text message to me from that day, "So tired, honey. Going to bed early. Love you." On the right, the drone footage of her on the balcony at that exact minute. Fade to black. The lights in the ballroom stayed down. The silence stretched for 10 seconds, heavy and suffocating. I picked up the microphone in the booth. My voice was calm, amplified through the surround sound system. "Happy anniversary, Elena," I said. Focus is nothing without perspective. I unplugged my laptop. I walked out of the booth, past the stunned AV technician who was staring at me with his mouth open. I walked into the ballroom. The crowd parted for me like the Red Sea. No one said a word. They were too shocked, too embarrassed, too horrified. I walked past Marcus. He couldn't look at me. He was staring at the floor, his face bright red, his life crumbling in real time. Elena was sobbing now, a guttural, ugly sound that echoed in the quiet room. Her mother was screaming at her in a whisper. My mother was sitting in her chair, hand over her mouth, looking at Marcus with a mixture of disgust and heartbreak that would take a lifetime to heal. I stopped in front of Elena. She reached out a hand, trembling. "Elias, please." I looked at her through the lens of my own indifference. I didn't see my wife. I saw a subject that was out of focus, poorly lit, and not worth the storage space. "You wanted a memorable night," I said quietly. "You got one." I turned and walked out the double doors of the ballroom. I walked through the lobby, out to the valet stand. The cool ocean air hit my face. The valet brought my car around. I tipped him $100. "Good party, sir?" he asked. "Cinematic," I replied. I drove away, leaving the chaos behind me. I didn't go back to the house. I had already moved my essentials to a leased apartment in Santa Monica 2 days prior. My lawyer had served the divorce papers to Elena's maid of honor 5 minutes ago, instructing her to hand them over once the video ended. The aftermath was a slow-motion demolition, much like the footage I capture of old buildings being brought down. Elena tried to fight the prenup, claiming emotional distress. The judge, having seen the Exhibit A video which went viral in the legal community, sealed from the public, but lawyers talk, was unimpressed. The evidence of financial infidelity, the money she stole to fund Marcus, negated her claims to alimony. She walked away with what she came in with, which wasn't much. Her reputation in our social circle evaporated instantly. In high society, having an affair is a misdemeanor, getting caught in 8K on a 40-foot screen is a felony. She moved back to Arizona to live with her sister. Marcus fared worse. I sued him for the loans I had given him over the years, which I had meticulously documented as promissory notes, not gifts. I also sued him for the misappropriated funds Elena had transferred to him, classifying it as theft. He declared bankruptcy. The shame was absolute. Our parents stopped speaking to him for a year, and even now, the relationship is frosty at best. He works at a car dealership in the valley now. I don't visit. As for me, my career exploded. It's a strange thing about the rich and powerful, they respect ruthlessness. The story of the drone divorce became an urban legend in Los Angeles. Clients hired me not just because I was the best photographer, but because they knew I was a man who saw everything and missed nothing. My rate doubled. I opened my own agency, employing 6 other photographers. 2 years later, I was back at the Pelican Cove Hotel. Not for a wedding, but for a commercial shoot. The hotel had hired me to rebrand their image. I stood on the same balcony where I had filmed the betrayal. I held my camera, a new Hasselblad medium format. I looked through the viewfinder, framing the shot of the ocean, the cliffs, the setting sun. It was perfect. I snapped the shutter. The sound was crisp, decisive, final. I checked the screen. The image was sharp. The colors were true. There were no glitches, no unwanted subjects, no lies. Focus is nothing without perspective, I whispered to the wind. I packed up my gear and went home to a quiet, peaceful house, where the only things I had to edit were the photos. And that was just the way I liked it.